this, you should compare our nature in respect of education, or lack of education, to a condition such as this. Behold, men in a sort of underground, cave-like dwelling, with a long entrance facing towards the light along the side of the entire cave. They have been in this from childhood, with bonds both on their legs and on their necks, so that they remain looking only at what is in front of them, being unable to turn their heads around because of the bond on the neck. Light comes to them from a fire burning above, and at a distance behind them, and higher up, between the fire and the prisoners, there is a path. And you can see a low wall built along the path, just like the screens which puppet makers place in front of themselves, over which they display their puppets.
Oh, I see.
Besides this, you should also see men carrying a variety of objects past the wall, including statues of men and other animals made of wood, stone, and all sorts of materials. Some of the object carriers are likely to be speaking, while others are silent.
You're describing a strange image and strange prisoners.
They're just like us. For in the first place, do you think such people would ever have seen anything of themselves or one another, apart from the shadows cast by the fire onto the cave wall in front of them?
How could they, if they were compelled to keep their heads motionless throughout life?
And what about the objects being carried? Isn't the situation the same?
Of course.
Now, if they could converse with one another, don't you think they would call the very things they saw things that are?
They must.
What if the prison had an echo coming from the opposite wall? Whenever one of the passers-by spoke, do you think the men would believe the speaker to be anything other than the passing shadow?
Oh, by Zeus, I do not.
Then such people would believe without reservation that truth is nothing but the shadows of the artificial objects.
They really must.
Now, consider what liberation from their bonds and cure of their ignorance would be like for them if it happened naturally in the following way. Suppose one of them were released and compelled suddenly to stand up, turn his neck, walk, and look up towards the light. Wouldn't he be pained by all this?
Mm-hmm.
And on account of the brightness, be unable to see the objects whose shadows he previously beheld? And if someone were to tell him that he beheld foolishness before, but now he sees more truly, as he is much closer to what is, and is turned towards things which partake of more being, what do you think if he would say? Moreover, if they showed him each of the passing objects and forced him to answer the question, "What is this?" don't you think he would be perplexed and would believe that what he saw before was truer than what he is now being shown?
Oh, very much so.
And if he were compelled to look towards the light itself, wouldn't his eyes be pained? Wouldn't he turn about and flee to those things he really can see, and regard these as, in fact, clearer than what is being shown?
Oh, just so.
And if someone were to drag him forcibly from there, along the rough upward path, and not let him go until he'd been dragged out into the light of the sun, wouldn't he be distressed and upset by the process? And once he had come into the light, wouldn't his eyes be flooded with its glare and be unable to see even one of what are now called truths?
No, they would not. No, not immediately anyway.
Yes, I think he would need to become accustomed to it if he were ever to behold the objects of the upper realm. At first he would discern shadows very easily, After that, images of men and other objects in water. Then the actual objects. From these he would proceed to view the heavenly bodies and the heaven itself by night, looking to the light of the stars and the moon more easily than the sun and the light of the sun by day.
What else could he do?
Then, I imagine, he would finally be able to behold the sun, not its appearance in water or in an alien setting, but just by itself, in its own place, and he would see it as it is.
This must be so.
And after this, he would then make deductions about it, that this is what provides the seasons and the years, presiding over everything in the visible realm, and in a way, the cause of everything they've been seeing.
Obviously, those are the steps he would take.
What then? Remembering his first dwelling place, and the wisdom there, and his former fellow prisoners, wouldn't he believe that he himself was blessed by the transformation, but feel compassion for them?
Very much so.
And suppose they'd received certain honours and praises from one another, and there were privileges for whoever discerns the passing shadows most keenly and is best at remembering which of them usually comes first or last, which are simultaneous, and on that basis is best able to predict what is going to happen next. Do you think he would have any desire for these prizes, or envy those who are honoured by the prisoners and hold power over them? Or would he much prefer the fate described by Homer and work as a serf for a man with no land, and suffer anything at all, rather than hold their opinions and live as they do?
I think it is just as you say. He would accept any fate rather than live as they do.
Yeah, and think about this. If such a person were to go back down and sit in the same seat, wouldn't his eyes become filled with darkness after this sudden return from the sunlight?
Very much so.
Now, suppose that he had to compete once more with those perpetual prisoners in recognising those shadows while his eyesight was still poor, before his eyes had settled down, since it would take some time to become accustomed to the dark. Wouldn't he become a figure of fun? Wouldn't they say that he went up but came back down with his eyes ruined, and it's not worth even trying to go upwards? And if they could somehow catch and kill a person who was trying to free people and lead them upwards, wouldn't they do just that?
Definitely.
Then, dear Glaucon, you should connect this image in its entirety with what we were saying before. Compare the realm revealed by sight to the prison house, and the firelight within it to the power of our sun. And if you suggest that the upward journey and seeing the objects of the upper world is the ascent of the soul to the realm known by reason, you will not be misreading my intention, since that is what you wanted to hear. God knows whether it happens to be true, but in any case, this is how it all seems to me. When it comes to knowledge, the form of the good is seen last, and is seen only through effort. Once seen, it is reckoned to be the actual cause of all that is beautiful and right in everything, bringing to birth light and the Lord of light in the visible realm, and providing truth and reason in the realm known by reason, where it is Lord. Anyone who is to act intelligently, either in private or in public, must have had sight of this.
I also hold the same views that you hold, after my own fashion anyway.